When you live with privilege, equality feels like punishment. I say this all the time. To the privileged, diversity, equity, and inclusion often feels like discrimination. I live in a smaller community in South Florida, and I've watched it grow over the years. When I bring up the word privilege in my community to people who look like me, many times they get pissed. They're infuriated. Then I usually hear things like this: I grew up in poverty. I had to work hard for everything I get. How dare you say I have privilege? But privilege doesn't mean you didn't struggle. It doesn't mean that you didn't grow up in poverty or that you didn't have to work hard to get where you are. It just means you never experienced any of that because of your race. And because of DEI initiatives, I hear a lot of people in my community say things like this, especially contractors. I'm not going to bid for that job because they'll probably give it to a black person or a Hispanic person or a woman. Or if you don't fall under any of those demographics, then why bid the job? Because you're not going to get it, especially government jobs. Then I challenge people to think about what they're actually saying. For the first time in history, you're not just given the job because you're a straight white male when you bid on the contract. Or you're not just given the contract because of your family's last name or because of your status in the community or because it's a closely linked community and the only people that can get these kind of contracts are the people in the clique. And that's how they make sure the wealth is shared amongst each other. We take care of our own. And normally when I say that, the response is, well, I am qualified for the job. It's not because of my family's last name or because of my connections or ties to the community. It's because I was qualified. I was the best person for the job. I find it ironic, though, that when marginalized communities say the same exact thing, that they're the best person for the job, that they're qualified, that DEI and affirmative action doesn't mean it was just given to them, the first thing that people who look like me assume is they didn't earn it. And truth be told, people who look like me have been the kings and queens of didn't earn it since the birth of this nation. Right now in my community, I watch people build wealth, generational wealth that continues to be passed down from one generation to the next, not because they're the most qualified or the most talented, but because of their connections and family last name. And I'll end with this. Privilege isn't always necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how you use that privilege. Are you using it at the expense of other people, or are you using it to help build and better your community? And unfortunately, there's all different types of privilege. There's pretty privilege just because of a way a person looks. It gets them in certain rooms or amongst certain people for none other than the way they look. There's intellectual privilege just because a person can articulate their thoughts or they think a certain way, it gets them in the spots that other people cannot get. So the question is, are you choosing to use your privilege wisely?